Everyone, Stuart here from Utradea. Today we are going to be looking at Imperial Petroleum, IMPP. This will be a little bit different than other stock videos you've seen on YouTube. The reason being we are going to be looking at Stocktwits and Twitter sentiment trends. Which I think is quite useful for a stock like IMPP, and we'll jump into why. So before we get into things, if you can just leave a comment, let me know what you think of this video, like and subscribe, that would mean a ton to me. Would love to get your feedback. It helps me make better videos and bring things that you guys are looking for. Awesome, let's get into things. So starting off here, this was shared by one of our super users, George Lucas. Great handle, love it. But essentially this person shared an overview of what's going on with IMPP. So IMPP, it's obviously a popular ticker on Stocktwits and Twitter. And the reason we like to track it is because in a 24-hour period, there's over 250,000 tweets and 500 million impressions for the top 200 tickers on Twitter alone. This is a ton. If you're not tracking social sentiment and these types of trends, especially for IMPP, you're potentially missing out. So the question is it trending on these two channels? So looking at Stocktwits, the average daily message volume is 457. I'd say this is a little bit under about half of what a typical ticker gets. Maybe not as popular. Depends though. If this starts to take off, we see this message volume increase significantly. In terms of impressions, this is how many people see a Stocktwits post that tags IMPP. Close to a little over 300,000 in 24 hours, which I'd say is a decent amount. But the key thing to look at is obviously Twitter. So Stocktwits is a solid platform, but then you have Twitter, huge reach, obviously. And IMPP averages about 110 tweets and a little shy of 700,000 impressions in 24 hours, which is solid, I'd say. So this means almost 700,000 people see a tweet with the hashtag IMPP. And again, impressions are useful because the more people that see a tweet with hashtag IMPP or hashtag IMPP, the more people that get interested in the stock. Typically, we see an increase in volume and usually an increase in price along with it as well. And the last thing to show you is what drives these actual impressions. So what we see is there's about 7 fairly large Twitter accounts with over 10,000 followers that tweet about IMPP, and 3 large Twitter accounts with over 100,000 followers. So this means when someone mentions, one of these accounts, I should say, mentions IMPP, quite a few people see it. So why don't we jump into the actual real-time dashboard and see what's been going on with IMPP over the last little while. So if we jump over to the Utradea social sentiment dashboard, this, like I said, this pulls in all the tickers across Twitter and Stocktwits. Used as a screener tool, you can also track the existing stocks you hold. But let's jump into IMPP. Okay, here we are, IMPP. So you can select different time periods. Let's see what's been going on the last month. Let's look at price, which will look in green, and then impressions, which is one of the metrics I like to look at. So interesting, a bit of a correlation here, and you can already see it, but this was back in March 28th. So price was about $1.60 a share. Impressions are going down, prices going down. We start to see impressions pick up a little bit here. Prices going up, impressions fall. A bit of a correlation as well. What's interesting is around April 10th and 11th, big spike in impressions. So went from only 47,000 impressions all the way up to 2.6 million impressions. Let's just take a look at the bar here. So as I said, here we have 47 million, and then a little later in the evening, boom, here's the big pop, and then 2.6 million impressions, and then we see the price move up. So quite an interesting correlation there. A bit of a dip since then. This was in mid-April, and then the last little while, I'd say, mostly due to market overall macro factors. We've seen it drop off a little bit, and it's really been between $1.60 all the way to just shy of $1 a share. But what we can do is look at the last 12 hours. So this was earlier today. As you can see, the price tracking obviously opened at 9:30 a.m. at $1.08 and closed at pretty much $1 at the end of the day. Let's look at the overall sentiment the last little while. So again, impressions are how many people see a tweet. Sentiment is how people are seeing it. Negative sentiment says people are feeling negatively about IMPP. Positive sentiment, obviously people are positive and tweeting positive things about the stock. I'm just going to take a look at the last 2 weeks in terms of sentiment. So quite interesting, mostly positive, a few negative sentiment points here. It's kind of slowed down a little bit. So I would want to know, what's been going on the last last few days. So what we can do is jump in and take a look at the influencer feed. So these are the top accounts that are tweeting about IMPP. So a few people calling out some alerts. So it's saying IMPP over $1.30 should run to 1.5. This was on the 18th. So we can see people were quite bullish on the 18th for IMPP. I think we saw a little bit of a jump in price that trading day. Yeah, I think from the looks of it, CI, IMPP, Indo, who's quite a few small cap oil and gas companies were running on the 18th. But if we look at the last 72 hours, probably a little bit more of a change of pace. Yeah, it's a different, a little bit of a different story. Obviously with the price dropping. But what's good to note is kind of seeing a bit of a rebound from the 25th of April. So overall, super useful tool for tracking what's going on with IMPP or even any other stock that you might own. So would highly recommend checking this out. I'll leave a link in the description. So super useful tool. Add it to kind of your tools you use to track IMPP, or if you're looking for new tickers. Like I said, last thing I just want to show you, stock page. This gives us a sense of what's going on from kind of an overall perspective. So IMPP the last little while, some interesting news. A few places are calling it out. We can see the chart. This is the last 3 months. This was in March, obviously had the big run up. I don't know if we'll see it squeeze again. We might have to look into kind of some of the underlying fundamentals a bit more. But what is useful if you are tracking it from that standpoint is, I'm just going to go the last 3 months, is to look at social trends. So as I was saying, the sentiment is useful because you can see pretty much leading up to this huge spike, big pop in sentiment, and then these jumps here in price correlated to the post in sentiment as well. So as I said, check it out. If you have any questions, want me to cover anything else, drop a comment below. Hopefully found this useful, and happy trading and investing.